Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar. So the way it's going to run is we're going to go through some information. Hopefully, you took the time to print out the worksheet that I sent, the worksheet that was included in your email, as well as the calendar. It's just a free calendar. So hopefully you printed that too, and you can see I've got sticky notes and stuff already going on mine. Because as I always say, I don't teach theory. I teach all the stuff that I'm doing myself. So we're going to go through a lot of that good stuff. And I'm going to share with you some things that have been going on. We're going to talk about how to use your calendar, how to really create that year that you're really looking for. So again, welcome. I'm Jackie Elmer. This is our strategic business planning for 2024. I like to call it our brilliant business planning so that we can truly create that year that we all long for. Because I don't know about you, but it's happened to me over and over again where I get so excited this time of year. I sit down with all the best laid plans. This is my favorite time of year to reflect on what's already occurred, to plan for what's coming, and to really get into the feel and the vibe of the season and everything else, and set those goals, set those intentions so that I can close out next year feeling really on top of my game. And sometimes that happens and sometimes it doesn't. And so that's really what we're going to get into. I'm going to set you up for success, because success leaves clues. Absolutely. And I'm a big believer that planning and what's on the calendar is what's going to help you make things happen. So just a little bit about me for those of you who are new to me. My name's Jackie Elmer. I'm thinking that most of you who are here have a little bit of exposure to me from the past, but I launched my first business in January of 1994, and I actually made the decision on Christmas Day of 93. So I'm always one that says, don't take time off during the holidays, because business absolutely does happen during the holidays, which is why we're here right now to set ourselves up for success for this next year. So I launched my very first business in the world of direct sales and network marketing. I was one of those that kind of came in kicking and screaming, but I saw the potential and I saw what it could offer me in terms of flexibility and freedom and finance. You know me and my favorite F words. And I got started. I'd love to tell you that I was an immediate fast starter. I was not, but ultimately I figured things out and things really changed. Took my network marketing business online in 1999, became the top income earner in my company in 2003 after going online and watching everything literally just explode and change in ways that I couldn't even keep up with. I was just, I was like, pinch me. It went so amazing. Then I started coaching in 2005. So gosh, I'm 18 years into it, almost 19 years into coaching. I've coached everything from direct sales and network marketing to real estate agents, life, wellness, and other type coaches, mostly solopreneurs and those who hang their own shingle, generate their own leads, make their own sales, and are in charge of wearing all the different hats, marketing, and all of that. I've sold products and services in over 40 countries. So I'm a true testament to what can happen with the internet and some intention, with clarity, commitment, and consistency, which we'll talk about what can truly happen. Sponsored over 2,500 people into a network marketing business, and then certainly have signed up other clients into coaching and different things of that nature using the tools of digital marketing. In addition to that, I'm a wife, I'm a mom, I'm an integrative nutrition coach, and I am a world traveler. And that's one of the things that I definitely accomplished this year, was visiting a number of countries. I think I visited 6, maybe 8 countries this past year. So travel is one of my top hot buttons. And I'm happy to say this year I checked that off big time and plan to continue that for this next year. So again, hopefully you printed the calendar, same exact calendar that you see the picture of here. If you didn't, go back to the emails that you received that promoted this, and then also download the worksheet and work through it. And if you didn't get the worksheet downloaded, that's okay. We're going to go through the details of that, and you can just use a piece of paper and work through that as we go. So the first thing that I want to do, and we'll do this in the worksheet, but I want to cover some of these things. I think it's very important to look back, to reflect back. I don't like to spend too much time looking in the rearview mirror because, of course, we're not going that way. We're going forward, but we have to look backwards so that we can analyze different things and really coach our own minds and our own selves on what worked, what didn't work, and what we're going to do and how we're going to be and show up differently to achieve what we want. So now's a great time to really begin to do that. Reviewing 2023. What was your big goal for 2023? Did you set a big goal? And maybe you're thinking back and looking back and thinking, wow, that was almost a year ago. I'm not entirely sure, but you can probably think back as to what some of your goals were. If you hadn't set one big goal, that's fine. What were some of your goals? And did you achieve them? Why or why not? What were some of your favorite moments and memories from 2023? How did those incorporate into your goal setting? What did you learn from the process of goal setting, goal getting, or not goal getting? And then what will you do differently in 2024? And how will you be different in 2024? We often tend to think that the doing is what creates the having and the being, but really and truly, we have to start with who we are, how we're going to be, how we're going to show up in order to truly accomplish those goals and what it is that we want. So let's get out that worksheet and we're going to go through it. So what we're going to do, we kind of reviewed a little bit on 2023. What I want to do is focus on 2024 here in this. And what I'm going to really encourage you to do is pick one stretch goal, what I like to call a stretch goal. That's not the simplest goal that you can think of. That's one stretch goal that you want to accomplish by the end of 2024. And this can be in any area that you choose. Now, we often have a tendency to choose more than one goal, and that's okay, but I'm going to encourage you to choose just one goal that we're going to work on today. And I typically say either health and wellness, relationships, or business. It's kind of funny, when I started online in 1999, those were the top 3 researched areas consistently on Yahoo. Google was just getting started. In fact, I don't even know, in 1999, I don't even know if Google was a thing yet. I remember when they were getting started, but Yahoo was the big search engine back in that day. But one of the first things that I learned is that these are the top 3 topics. If you go to the New York Times bestseller list or anything like that, again, you will often find that those are in the nonfiction categories: health, relationships, and business, career, money, something along those lines always come up there. So I'm going to encourage you to pick one stretch goal that you want to accomplish and write that in the space. And then the next step that you're going to do is you're going to just detail out quickly. And I want to encourage you to go ahead and write this down now. You don't have to fully complete it. You can come back to this. But what are the steps that you believe must be done to achieve this goal, so that when you complete December 31st of 2024, what are those steps that you absolutely believe you will have to have taken in order to achieve this goal? And again, just write down a few things that come to mind. Don't overthink it. Just get some things down on paper, and you can always go back. And I encourage you to, once you're off this call and you've had a chance to digest some different things, I'm going to really encourage you to spend a little bit more time with this. And these are really important steps. And so often these are not the steps that we take. We set a goal, we set it and forget it, as I like to say. It's kind of like choosing a focus word for the year. Very often I would choose a focus word, and then it would be interesting because I would look back and, even a few months into it, I often couldn't even remember what it was that I set. So what happens is we set this goal, and then we don't ever really draw out the steps that it's going to take to achieve a goal. And I know for me, coming from the network marketing profession, one of the biggest challenges for me is one of the first things I heard when I launched my first network marketing company was choose an income goal. Okay, well, I could just pick an arbitrary number out of the sky, but it didn't really mean anything to me. Yeah, I wanted to earn that amount, but the reality of it is I could just choose a number. But until I really internalized and understood what was going to be required of me to attain that number, to earn that, to have that show up in my bank account month after month, it was just kind of a meaningless number that I randomly picked and put out there. And you may know exactly what I'm talking about. So what I learned over time is that in any business, we can't necessarily we don't control another person. Yes, whether it's network marketing and direct sales, whether you're a coach and you're bringing in new clients, whether you sell real estate, whatever it is, we know that we're dependent on other people to get out their credit card and enter it in to purchase something or to sign a contract with us or whatever it is. We're dependent on other people and we don't control their actions. So what I learned more than anything was to choose a goal, but then beyond that, be very intentional and set the intentions that I knew that I could control. How am I going to be, right? How do I need to be to show up each and every day consistently, day in, day out, week in, week out, certainly taking days off. Not going to pretend like we don't do that. But what are those things that on a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month basis that I'm going to need to show up being all of those things in order to move myself in the direction of achieving that goal? So this is where we take whatever that goal is and we begin to break that down into tasks that must be completed. Okay, so write down all your tasks that you think have to be completed, write those down, and then prioritize them and put them in date and importance order. Now, date and importance matter because, we have to have things done timely in order to really make it relevant and make it count and turn out the way that we want it to. And then as you'll see, as I move down here, you're going to write down the action steps that accompany each task. So we're going to break that goal down into tasks. And then we're going to take each task and we're going to write down the action steps that you need to take. And you'll see that on your next page, on the second and the third page, that's where you will see those. So if if you've written down right up here, if you've written down 4 tasks, then you can take each task and enter those into one of those spaces on pages 2 and 3. And then you'll begin to write down what goes into that. What are the action steps? So we know what the task is. And I'm going to showcase some of those here in a minute. I'm going to actually show you some examples. So if it seems a little arbitrary, just stick with me. When we get back to the slideshow, you'll be able to see that. So you're going to write down the tasks. You're going to write down the big stretch goal. Okay. You're going to write down the steps that you believe have to take place in order to achieve this. We're going to then break those down into the tasks and put those on a line and then write down the action steps that will accompany each task. And again, I'm going to show you what I mean. Now, I mentioned printing out that calendar because then that's the next step of it. It's one thing to write down our goal, set our goal. It's another thing to write down what we believe has to be accomplished. But as I always say, what's on the calendar gets done, or it has a much higher chance of getting done if and when it's on the calendar. And we can look at that each day and say, okay, today, in order to move my business forward, this is what I've prioritized right on my calendar to get done. So print that calendar out. If you haven't, it's in your emails that came to you, and then write out steps on your calendar that you're going to put that in to complete those tasks. And again, just stay with me here. I'm going to show you some examples. What I like to do, I like to then write a plan for batching those categorized tasks together, depending on what your goal is. So for instance, if I am going to create videos whether it's for a YouTube channel, for a video podcast, whether it's for my blog, perhaps it's for social media, for stories, reels, whatever it is. If I'm going to create videos, I like to batch those together, typically for the week. So let's say I pick Monday from 1 to 3 in the afternoon. I'm just picking a time. I'm going to put that on my calendar. Monday, January 8th, for instance, 2024, 1 to 3 in the afternoon. I am going to shoot the videos for the following week. I like to stay ahead of schedule as much as possible. And the further you can stay ahead of schedule, the more flexibility and leeway that gives you for unexpected things to show up. You can probably relate to this. There's nothing worse than when you're flying by the seat of your pants to get stuff done and you wake up and think, oh my gosh, I should be doing something for my business, but I don't feel super good today. And I was going to shoot videos and I need to get my story out there because tomorrow's when my workshop is, or whatever it is that you have. And then things fall by the wayside. It derails us and we get discouraged and we often quit. So it's so helpful when you can plan ahead of time and batch together those categories of tasks and then set yourself up with your calendar to get those done. So all your videos, and then maybe the next day you edit those videos. And then from that, you set about creating the content. Maybe it's a health goal. So you're going to, one day you're going to write out your whole eating plan for the next week. And then the next day you're going to go shopping for it. And then you're going to do your food and meal prep, whatever it is. When you can take all of this and put these into actionable steps, like a checklist. I'm big on systems and checklists because that's how we accomplish things that happen. I come from the airline world. I'm married to a pilot. We operate on checklists around here, but I will tell you it's extremely efficient in knowing what to do, when to do it, the order to do it, and getting it done. And then, of course, remembering the next time exactly what has to be done. So write that plan for batching together your categorized tasks and getting those done. Now, after you've done that, I want you to really think about these next 3 questions. We often answer question number 1, but the next 2 we seldom do. And that question number 1 is, what do you truly see as your commitment level to achieving your goal? Now, it's easy in the heat of the moment and the end of the year when we're setting all these great big goals for the year that's coming ahead of us to look at, we've got 365 days, 366 this next year because it is a leap year. We have all these days unfolding in front of us. And so we feel like we have so much possibility, so much potential because we have all this time. And that can derail our commitment just a little bit. But I want you to really think long and hard about this past year and whether or not you achieved your goals. I'm going to encourage you to reflect back on previous years, maybe just even the last 2. What were some of the goals that you set? And how well did you do achieving those goals? And what would you say your true commitment level was when you set the goal and at the end of the year, when you either achieved it or you didn't achieve it? Now, obviously, if you achieved your goal, you were a solid 10. You were a solid 10, even if that wasn't the commitment level you set at the beginning of the year. So it's really important that you reflect on how seriously committed you are to that one big stretch goal. And this is where I'm going to encourage you to be extremely honest with yourself, because nobody else has to know. Nobody else has to know what your goal is, although I encourage you to share it with those people who support you, not the ones the haters, trolls, and shamers. We don't want to share with them, but the people that truly support you and will cheerlead you on and help uplift you to that goal, share that with them and share what your commitment level is. Now, this next question is pivotal for all of that. And that is, what do you foresee ahead of time as those challenges and obstacles could potentially derail you? That's such an important thing to take note of now. And that's one of the areas that we almost never factor in when we set a goal. We set a goal and we're super excited, but we don't get really truthful and honest with ourselves about how we're going to handle obstacles. And obstacles always present themselves on the way to achieving any goal. Always, right? Sometimes it's just our monkey mind and that negative self-talk that comes in and says, oh, who do you think you are to think that you can do this? You said the same thing last year. You said the same thing the year before, whatever it is, right? So sometimes that biggest obstacle is just our own chitter chatter in our brain. So it's really learning to manage our thoughts and realize that the past does not equal the future. Doesn't have to, certainly, right? We wouldn't be sitting here today with technology connected all around the world with lights on and cameras and action and all the different things if every person who ever set a goal allowed those derailing obstacles to take them out. I'm sure that Steve Jobs, on his way to creating the smartphone, and I say him, certainly he had teams and lots of smart people helping him. I'm sure they had plenty of derailments and challenges and things that didn't go as planned, but they were committed as a 10 to getting it done. And here we are today, living proof. In some ways, it's not been the greatest invention ever. And we'll talk about that too here in just a few minutes. All right, so what do you foresee as those challenges and obstacles? And then the final question of that, which is so important, is what is your plan to overcome those derailments? You have to have a plan. You really, truly do. Otherwise, it's so easy to settle into, see, it's never going to happen for me. I don't know why I even try. It's never going to happen for me. If you can face ahead of time and know, you know what? I was expecting this. I was expecting to wake up one day and think, who do I think I am? Nobody's going to listen to me. Who do I think I am? When you have a plan to anticipate that happening and then also have a plan for how you're going to overcome that derailment, it's really powerful. And a lot of us deal with that imposter syndrome, the who do I think I am? I'm not good enough. And about a year and a half ago, I started what I call my book of accomplishments. And I don't have it right here, but it's something along these lines. It's not this particular book, but it's just a little notebook. It's literally tiny. Maybe when I put the video and the blog post up, I'll have a photo of it. But in it, I literally went through and I wrote everything I did. I spent about 2 hours one day doing a personal inventory. I just sat down with a piece of paper and a pen, and I started writing down everything I could remember from as early back in childhood as I could go to every accomplishment I ever felt, whether it was a teacher who encouraged me, an award that I was given, a solo in a play. I mean, I literally went all the way back to childhood, just anything I could remember. And then all the way up through high school, college achievements, career, marriage and family, all those type things. If something just came up for me that was a memory of somebody paying a compliment to me, even maybe it was something I was wearing that day that really stood out for me. Like I say, I spent a lot of time on this, and I just wrote all of these in this little book of accomplishments. And that's one of the tools that I use when I find myself getting derailed and thinking, oh, that ship has sailed for me. Who do I think I am? A lot of those kind of things. I get out that book of accomplishments, and it immediately raises my vibrational level. And I think to myself, oh my gosh, if I did it once, if I was able to achieve that, if that person saw that potential in me or spoke about it or whatever, why couldn't the past repeat itself? Why couldn't I do that again? Right? So I'm going to encourage you to really think about what your plan is to overcome derailments. And if it's a book of accomplishments where you go back through and you remember every positive thing, so that when the negative thoughts of something from the past creep in, you can look back and see, oh my gosh, well, I was, senior class vice president, or whatever it is for you. What are those things you can remember? All right, just quickly here, scrolling. This is where I was talking about where you're going to list all the tasks that are going to be required to achieve that goal, and then the action steps that you associate with those tasks. And then once that's done, then you're going to begin to plot those on the calendar. Now, here's where I really want you to listen, okay, and write this down. You can't get it wrong. There is no right or wrong. We do the best that we can to put those in some type of priority order, but it's just not always going to work out that way. You may get things out of order. That's okay. Okay. Progress over perfection. Progress over perfection. Progress. Oh my gosh, my cat just jumped up here. She might have to get into the video. My daughter's cat, I should say. Progress over perfection, because it's the progress that we make on our way to the goal that leads to more of a perfection-oriented process. Those systems, those checklists. Here's Luna. Luna says hello. She wants to get her calendar plan too. It's the learning that we go through, right? The reason for setting any goal is not necessarily the achievement of the goal. It's what we learn about ourselves and who we must become on the way to achieving that goal. So I really want to encourage you to let go of an idea of perfection. Let go of that idea of perfection and just do the best you can to get it on your calendar. And if you wrote down that you were going to do videos on January 8th, but then you realize, I got to write out the scripts first, great. Then you move that to January 9th and you spend January 8th writing out your scripting or your sequencing or whatever it is for what your goal is. Okay. So, and as it even says here, the purpose of any goal is beyond just achieving the goal. It's about the person we must become, what we learn about ourselves. I have a typo there, on the journey. We focus on becoming the future self. I talk about this all the time. This is how I weigh decisions. I'm a peak performance habits coach. I'm all about habits. And one of the things that I try to weigh in on all the time, whether it's something I'm going to consume, whether it's food or beverage that I'm going to put in my mouth, I try to ask myself, does this serve my future vision of my future self, who I'm on the way to becoming? If it's an action step that I am looking to take in my business, is this moving me closer toward my goal or taking me further away from my goal? Which is it? So remember who that future self is. And I will share more about that in upcoming workshops and all of that. But your future self is who you must become to achieve that stretch goal that you have set for yourself. So that this next sheet goes through that. What are the characteristics of the person who has achieved the goal that you desire? So does that person procrastinate? Does that person allow fear to derail them? Does that person allow bright, shiny objects to distract them? Or does that person have that question or that series of questions, kind of like what we set up earlier, right? What is your plan when you get derailed? Does that future self person ask that question? Well, if I sign up for this program or do this or take this trip or, go to lunch with the girls today when this is what I thought I was going to be doing or whatever it is, does that decision move me closer to my goal and becoming that future self or move me further away? Now, all that to say, there's certainly going to be times when we want to engage in one of my other favorite F words, which is flexible. Okay. And my other F word, fun. We want to have fun. There are going to be those times when things come up that aren't on the calendar, but we're going to choose to do anyway. That's not necessarily a derailment. It can be a short setback. And that's okay as long as you intentionally don't allow that to happen every single day. But you ask yourself, how many times can I or will I allow this to happen on the way to achieving my goal? So write out some of those characteristics of the person who has achieved the goal that you desire. And then what things must be changed within you to become your future self? Again, that person who's achieved that desired goal. What has to change? If it's a health and wellness goal, do you need to move your body more? Do you need to be more intentional with your diet and your nutrition? Do you need to cut back on alcohol? What is it? What are those things that must be changed? If it's a business, if you're in network marketing, Do you need to get more disciplined with your time management and your list and those action steps that put you out in front of people to meet people and share with them what you do? You know for yourself those things that have to be changed in order for you to become your future self. And then every day, ask yourself, what is one thing that I can do today, and each day, as it says here, to move me closer to who I desire to become? What is one thing every single day? Ask yourself that question. Maybe learn to start by asking that question first thing in the morning. What is one thing I can do today to move me closer to my stretch goal, to my big goal that I want to have checked off on December 31st of 2024? And then at the end of the day, reflect on that decision that you made for yourself, that one thing. We have a tendency to create a very long to-do list, and then that can derail us too. So if you have a challenge sticking to a to-do list, I'm going to encourage you to start with one thing every day that is an action step to move you closer to that goal, to move you absolutely closer to that goal. And then what I want you to do in that second to the last question is write out a little paragraph. It's December 31st of 2024, and you have achieved your goal. How do you feel? How do you feel? Because the reality of it is, it's not more money that we're looking for. It's not a slimmer body. It's not a better relationship or that perfect partner. It's not any of those things that we're actually looking for. What we're striving to achieve is the feeling that all of that will provide for us. Now, of course, that's a part of it, right? So when you find that perfect match, that perfect mate, that perfect partner, it's the way you feel about yourself ultimately, certainly the way you feel about them, but the way you feel about them is just a reflection of how that creates a feeling in yourself. Same with health and wellness, same with a business goal, making more money, whatever it is. Ultimately, it's the feeling that we desire. It's that feeling. And then the final question, once you've achieved that, what do you think might be next for you? Now, I don't want to spend too much time getting ahead of the year that we're just about to start, right? I don't want to spend too much time, but just let your mind stretch a little tiny bit into the following year, or maybe even sooner if you hit your target goal, if you hit that stretch goal before the end of 2024. What might be next for you? What might be next for you? All right, so I'm going to stop sharing that, and I can see that I have some questions here, I think. So I want to see if I can get into those. Okay, can you share some ideas for plan to overcome derailments? I'm not sure how to create mine. Book of accomplishments. Yes. Okay. Great questions. Thank you, Isabel. So the book of accomplishments is one, and I did share on that. When I get into imposter syndrome, or, yeah, I did that once, but I can't make it happen again, or whatever it is, when I get into that mode, that's when I get out that book of accomplishments. And it's gotten really full. It didn't start that way, but now just the most, I've shared this before, but when I was in second grade, I had a singing solo in the Christmas play. And it sounds silly, but I still remember as vividly as if it was yesterday. My mom curled my hair all in ringlets. I had long hair and I had a velvet dress, and I can't sing today. I can't, carry a tune in a bucket. But I had the solo in second grade, and what second grade kid isn't darling in a school play? But I still remember my music teacher, when it was all said and done, she came up and she gave me a big hug, because that's back when you could do that. And she held me for a really long time. And I just remember her going like this and going, "Oh my gosh, you are so amazing." And I still, to this day, I can recapture that feeling. Just now, when I was sharing that, I could feel that. And you might have even seen it on my face, felt that energy. I could absolutely feel that in my whole psyche of what that felt like. That's an example of how you plan to overcome derailments. Isabel, I know you've read this book, but the Mel Robbins 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And that's a great thing too, where it's like, you've set an action step that you're going to take. Something's going to derail you. That's when you go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, boom, and you get started taking action on that goal. We have to develop that D word, a D word that a lot of people don't like, which is discipline. Some people feel like discipline is like harsh and what's the other word? Like limiting. And for me, discipline is freedom. Discipline is complete freedom, the way I see it. So, all right. So anyway, Isabel, thank you for those questions. I'm going to share. I don't have any more examples of that, but if anybody thinks of anything else, you can add it into that, and I'll come back to the question and answer. Okay, so let's talk about that goal and then really some of the action steps. I've mentioned themes, and I've talked about the calendar. And for me, it's kind of the same thing along the lines of discipline. To me, themes are something that can keep me structured, they keep me accountable, and they keep me getting up and going, okay, this is what I'm going to do. So this is just a suggestion. Okay, again, there's no right or wrong. You don't have to do this. But one of the things that really helped me when I took my business online and started getting very intentional, and by the way, I talk a lot about this in terms of taking a business online, but the reality of it is your online and offline world are interchangeable. Everything that you create in your action plan, your task lists that you put on your calendar, and the content that you create for an online platform can be used interchangeably offline. And I encourage you to do that. So if you're someone who goes to networking events or is out socially, out there meeting people, you can still use themes as you go in your offline world along with your online world. So for instance, I was a member of BNI, Business Network International, for a few years. I know some of you are, or you are engaged in other networking events. Let's say that you create a theme for January, and that's organizing. But I picked that because that's one of the ones that I have down there as a theme, organizing. So you're going to create all of your content for online around organizing. And then when you go offline and you go to a networking event or you're out socially or whatever, you're going to figure out ways to incorporate that theme. If you give a 30-second commercial or somebody asks what you do, you can come back to that theme to share what you're doing. And then if you're online, you can write blog posts, you can do videos, you can write stories, your reels. If you do a YouTube channel, all of that can be around that theme. And again, it keeps you structured, it keeps you accountable, and it helps with not getting derailed when you know exactly what it is that you're focused on for that time. Now, here's the thing with themes. They can be very flexible. You can change them constantly. You can write on your calendar that your theme is organizing, but let's say January 15th, you get a great idea, because I believe that's Martin Luther King Day. It is. Let's say you get a brilliant idea of something to do around Martin Luther King Day that ties into your business. You don't have to stick to the theme because it was organizing, right? No one else is going to know. They don't have to know that you had a theme. This is more internally for you. Now, it goes a long way with your audience, however, in keeping them attracted and in tune with what you're doing. It's kind of like watching a series, like a Netflix series, or what used to be called soap operas. I don't even know if those are still around. Now they're called Netflix series. No, I'm kidding. But you know what I mean? It's like you're building on that, and it gives people, you can tease what's coming next. You can tease what you've already put out there to give people a reason to go back and watch your last video, your last reel, whatever it is. And that's one of the things that you can begin to incorporate in that keeps your content really flowing really well. But you can be extremely flexible. But this is just designed to give you a framework to start to work with, a system and a checklist, as I mentioned, and build on that. Now, I have the word evergreen there because once you get this done, if you really get serious and intentional about this for this year, you can use this over and over and over again, year to year to year, and even every few months. Maybe you only want to pick 4 themes for the year, and you're going to repeat those every 4 months. Or maybe you're going to just do it quarterly, or whatever it is. As you begin to create content, keep in mind the evergreen ability of content. If you create a reel, if you create a video, if you create just even in your stories, it could be written images that are going to go through. Save all of that in folders by month and by topic, because you can come back and use that over and over again. Your themes can be daily, they could be monthly. I know for a long time, I used to have my social media themes around a daily theme. So, it was Motivation Monday. Everybody uses that. I don't even think that's what mine was called, but I like to use Mojo Monday, like get your mojo on, get yourself ready for the week, that kind of thing. And then Tuesdays, I know one of the things that I'm working on for Tuesdays is environment. I'm grabbing the E out of Tuesday and talking about environmental influences, environmental habits, things that we can do. So I've been working on mine, but those are just some ideas on daily. Again, don't have to stick to those. Wisdom Wednesday is one of the ones that I've always used and probably will still use. And then a favorite, which is F-bomb Friday. And it's not the kind of F-bombs you're thinking of, but if you've been around me for a while, you know that I have my 5 favorite F words: faith, family and friends, that's one, fun, fitness, and finance. Those are my 5. And I picked 5 because I was born on the 5th of March, and that's a 5. It starts with an F, and it's just a whole alliteration that I love to use. And that helped me when I very first started putting my content together. I had those 5 buckets. Everything fell under that, and they intertwine. So if I'm talking about fitness, it doesn't just have to be in diet and nutrition and movement and body fitness. There's financial fitness, there's relationship fitness, there's fun fitness, meaning, am I having fun? Am I incorporating that into my life? Whatever it is. So you can see how those all intertwine. And that just made it so easy for me. And because it was my own, I don't ever forget it. I know exactly how to build content under all of those things. So then I actually asked this question at a Brendan Burchard event once. Everybody was talking about being edgy and creating content. And I'm like, I'm like a middle-aged mom, and I'm not going to embarrass myself or my kids or my mom. I'm not the person to drop the F-bomb and, that kind of stuff. And neither does Brendan, by the way. But I was like, I don't know how to be edgy. And so he coached me through some different things. And that's when I came up with my own version of F words. Like I could play on that and attract attention to F words and F-bomb and that kind of thing, but have it be my own version of that. And so I've had fun with that. And it's a hashtag that I started doing, which was F-bomb Friday. And I'm going to come back to that for 2024. I didn't do it this past year. I don't even remember if I did it in 2022, but it's time to pick it back up again. And I'm ready to do that. So that's one of the things for me for Friday. I pick an F word. It could be anything. There's so many of them, it could be fear. It could be fearless. I mean, there's just no end. And then I make that hashtag F-bomb Friday. And again, it's building on that theme to give people something fun to look forward to. And then sometimes they'll be curious about, well, what was last Friday's F-bomb or whatever, just things like that. So those are just some ideas for you. And again, down here, I have organizing, detoxing, eating healthy, a business launch, behind the scenes of your business, tip themes, right? So it could be tips for, if you're in real estate, tips for selling your house. It could be, real estate tip Tuesday or real estate tip Thursday, if you want to play on those words, whatever it is. Just spend some time brainstorming with that worksheet under your tasks and your action steps, coming up with some different themes and how you might incorporate those into your business and what you're doing. All right, so here's an example of one of my big stretch goal, okay? I am building the High Altitude Habits Academy online. These are the tasks that I have listed. So these are written out in my sheet. They're actually not on this sheet, but they are written out. So these are the 6 tasks that I have written out that I know I have to do in order to accomplish this. Task number 1, I need to build a list of people who would be interested in this offer. Okay. The action steps under that task are, I have to define who my aligned client avatar is. Who am I looking to attract? Who is interested in habits for success? And I focus on those 3 areas, as I mentioned: health and wellness, relationships, and business. because I know they all intertwine. And I do have a life coaching certification, and I'm really learning to draw on that, even in my business coaching, because it's all intersectional, right? So who is my defined aligned client avatar? Yes, it could be everybody, but when you talk to everybody, you talk to nobody. Okay, so I'm spending time writing out who it is that would be attracted to what my offer is. And then my next step for building that list is to create a funnel in order to capture online those names and email addresses. Now, as I meet people offline, I can add them into that funnel. Task number 2, offline, is meet people. That's a task. I've got to meet people. I've got to get out there and share with people what it is that I do. Well, what are the action steps? I'm going to go to networking events. I'm a natural born networker. I love them. I go to networking events. I also do live workshops in the Scottsdale, Phoenix area. I have those in red because when I get to my calendar, I'm going to show you my calendar for January, and your eyes might roll back because it looks complicated, but I just want to encourage you ahead of time to bear with me on that. So live workshops and my online workshops, the thing about these 2 tasks is it seems like a lot, but when you understand, for instance, my online workshops, I have very targeted Facebook groups who I will be marketing these within. So it's going to look overwhelming when you see my calendar. I'm just warning you, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. And I'll explain why. Task number 3, online, I have to meet people. My action steps, I'm in those Facebook groups. I'm raising awareness. I'm not in those Facebook groups constantly posting about my workshops, but I have a 5-day detox workshop coming up that I will be posting. I've shared before, I'm from aviation. I'm involved in a lot of pilot wife groups, and that's a huge audience of which I'm already actively involved. So I invite them because they're a perfect audience for my high altitude habits academy. See, again, play on words with a lot of that kind of stuff. I have a podcast, I have a YouTube channel, I have blog posts, and my social media content. All of those are tasks or the action steps in order to achieve that task of meeting people. Task number 4, actually create the online academy. Create it. I have the shell of it created, but I'm going to use a lot of the content from my online workshops because I'm creating evergreen content that I can use for marketing, and I can also use pieces of that in the workshop. And then I'm scheduling time on my calendar every single week that I'm committing to actually build out the modules for that academy. Task number 5, sell the program, actually sell the program. So from that, I begin to email and nurture that list that I've built. Okay. I continue to create social content that's going to invite people into the funnel. These are likely terms you've heard before, but if they're new to you and you're not currently doing that, I'm going to share how I can support you in making that happen. So relax. You don't have to know the answers to all of that. It's kind of like that saying, if you're in LA and you want to go to New York, and you're driving, you don't have to know every single turn. You just have to be able to see 250 feet in front of you and follow this step, then this step, then this step. Everything has a system. Everything has a checklist. If anybody's ever done it, you can do it too. And we're going to detail that. Okay. So, and then having active conversations with people to share with them what it is that I do. That's task number 5, to sell the program. And then task number 6 is plan and repurpose content. So my action steps, I create that calendar of monthly events using themes to promote sales. Okay. I create a calendar of monthly events. And then I just rinse and repeat. Once that calendar is created, I can look at that and it's evergreen, and I can continue to use that over and over and over again. Of course, adding in new things here, and something might strike me. Maybe it's a holiday. If you've followed me before, I do my curler chronicles where I get on in my curlers, or I have my St. Patrick's Day hat. I have my July 4th hat. I was just out in my Santa hat last week. I mean, just different things like that. that will be new. I'm always adding new stuff to the content, but I'm never hesitant to pull from old stuff either. And then, of course, I collect testimonials from my client base to help me sell the program. So that's an example of exactly what you would do. You'd set your big goal at the top, and then you write down what you believe those tasks are, and you add them in, and then you write out what those action steps are. You might miss a few, then you go back in and you write it again. You just add it in there, but that's how you get started creating your purposeful, intentional plan. So, themes and a calendar of events and workshops. For me, Slide Edge Habits for Peak Performance. Okay. I'm all about teaching people little habits because a confused mind says no, little steps that you can take over and over. I'm focused on those three areas: health and wellness, relationships, and career and money. So some of the things I'm going to do, I have a workshop called Lower Toxic Living. I run it at least 3 times a year. And in it, I talk about all 3 of those areas, because toxic living is not just our diet and nutrition. It's not just our environment, but it can be people and relationships too. So this is just an example of themes that I would have around this particular workshop that I will be running, and how it incorporates. So again, you're going to think for yourself, what are some events? And by events and workshops, I'm not saying that you have to host webinars or any of this. It could just be the themes of what you're going to share with people and the content that you're going to create out there for social media. Okay. So your calendar of events could be nothing more than your social media content plan, your content plan of what you're going to share when you go to a networking event, or what you're going to share when you contact somebody who you know to share with them what you do. So events and workshops, you can replace those words with whatever fits for you. Now, I'm going to encourage you over time to get a little bold and put on a workshop. It's not that difficult. You can do a 15-minute workshop and create major impact. It doesn't have to be an hour to an hour and a half or any of that kind of thing. Just begin to allow your mind to explore the possibility of doing this. Okay. Just going to say that. I'm not going to say you have to. I won't should on you, but allow your mind to explore the possibility of doing that. All right. So here's an example on that calendar for you. I picked the 24th. Maybe that's the day that you're going to host an event, you're going to speak at a networking event, you're going to host a webinar, or you're just going to go to a networking event, whatever it is. Okay. And so all of these, all the things, the tasks and the action step, those are the things that you're going to plot into your calendar off that list that you created so that you know exactly what to do. So if you're going to be speaking in an event on the 24th, maybe your action step, your task on the 1st and the 3rd and the 5th is to strictly create content for social media, inviting people to that event or inviting them to reach out to you to learn more about that event. Now, you'll notice that on the 25th, 26th, 27th, and 28th, I have the words follow-up put in there on my calendar. Because, for instance, if you're going to a networking event or you're doing a webinar or whatever, you want to make sure that you're scheduling time afterwards so that you can follow up with the people who attended, whether it's an email series, whether it's a personal phone call, whether it's creating a video. For me, I'm going to take this video, I'm going to process it, put it into a blog post, put it on my YouTube channel. I'm going to make it accessible out there for a lot of people. So this time is evergreen for me. If there's 10 people on the webinar, if there's 100 people on the webinar, it doesn't matter, because over the course of time, when I take this content and I put it out there for the masses, over time, I can have thousands of people that I'm getting my message in front of. So that's an important part of follow-up. And your task list is to say, how can I use everything that I do and make it work for me over and over and over again? And how do I get that plotted onto my calendar so I absolutely make it happen? Okay. All right. So for instance, for me, this is what January looks like for me. at least part of it. Now, over here, you'll see over to the left where I have the events. I have a live networking workshop where I'm actually speaking on the 12th here in Scottsdale. I'm going to be in Dallas running a healthy habits workshop live in Dallas. Then online, I'm doing a 5-day detox workshop, kind of like this one, but it's going to go for 5 days. And we're going to go through a detox, not just diet. I'm going to say that. There's going to be more, but it's going to run for 5 days. And then I'm actually on the 27th, I'm running a live Valentine's Day healthy cooking class in my home in Scottsdale, but that's live. And the reason I wanted to draw these out differently is because that looks like a lot. And if you're just getting started, don't let that overwhelm you. I've been doing this for a while, and I know how to allow these to build on each other. But the other thing is, my live networking events in Scottsdale, I'm only going to be targeting to an audience that lives in Scottsdale. Obviously, if you live in Omaha, Nebraska, you're probably not going to come to my Scottsdale networking events or my Dallas. You might. It's kind of a fly-in. It's a half-day kind of thing. I mean, that one would be more possible, but unlikely, right? That's mostly going to be geared toward women in Dallas. I mentioned I'm in a lot of pilot wife groups. Dallas is a huge base for 3 airlines. And there's a lot of people there. So I'll be marketing that primarily online in specific groups. So it looks overwhelming, but it's not going to be overwhelming because it's not going to be like that's going to be consuming my stories and all of my stuff over and over again. I have very specific groups that I've been a part of where I'm cultivating relationships where I'll be marketing that. But then the 5-day detox, most of the public will see that a whole lot more because that is an online workshop. Anybody around the world can log on to that one. So I just wanted to say that so that you don't get overwhelmed. Again, if you're just starting this, pick one thing for January, just one. A confused mind says no. So pick just one. This is where I said, don't let this blow you away. Because if you look at this, a lot of this is just the same thing repeated over and over again. Okay. The red and the green are the actual events that I'm doing where my time is required to be in a specific place at a specific time. But all the rest of that in the bluish shaded colors, all of that is just marketing and creation. It's marketing and creation. It's on my calendar and it's blocked on my calendar. So what I will do is I will block off time that I know on Monday, January 1st. I may not get up super early, but at some time during that day, I will be marketing my January workshops. But I do actually strategically put those in my calendar with an hour block or 2-hour blocks or whatever it is, so that that time is accounted for. And then here's the interesting thing. It's up to you to create those boundaries and that commitment to that time so that you can be flexible, but not flexible all the time to where you don't actually stick to that. Okay. And I'm going to email these slides out too. So you will get a copy of these if you want to go back through and look at any of this and piece it together along with the recorded video of this. So I backed this up to show you December of 2023. Now you'll see on the 18th, the planning workshop live. That's this right now. That's this right now. Okay. But all of the stuff that went on before, you'll see the yellow, that was all of my marketing to build to this workshop. Okay. You'll see the day after the 19th is my follow-up. I have that on my calendar. Follow up by emails, getting my video process, getting the blog post, getting it on YouTube, sending the slides out for all of you that are here, for those who registered, who couldn't be here live, who get the replay, all of that type stuff. And then I'm going to move into beginning to market my January workshops. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Now, I want to give some examples. Most of my network marketers fall under the health and wellness venue, and I am an integrative nutritional coach. That was one of the things that I committed to over the last 3 years, was getting that certification, not only for myself and not only because I have a passion about helping coach people with that area, but also because it's a huge help to my health and wellness clients to teach them how to market more than just their product line, how to set themselves up to be that expert in their field that makes them a go-to person. So the big goal might be to advance 3 levels in the company pay plan. Notice I didn't put a dollar amount, because that's, like I started with, that can be kind of arbitrary and derailing for a lot of people. So task number 1, notify your warm market of what you're doing. Action steps: begin to write that story. We have to, one of the things that's so often skipped in network marketing is really learning how to share your story, your own story, not your company's story, not your sponsor's story, not somebody else's story, but really learning to build your own, what I call your personal manifesto. What are your fears? What are your hopes? What transformation did you experience? What are you offering people? Now, I'm using this for network marketing, but really, and I'm going to show another example too, but this goes into any business. Whatever it is that you're marketing, whatever your big goal is, you have to learn how to share your personal story of what it is you've experienced, what you've gone through, the highs, the lows, the hero's journey. We've all heard about that. It sells over and over and over again. Most feature films, from Star Wars to Indiana Jones to the biblical stories, all of that are the story of the hero's journey. And it sells over and over again because we love that. We love the underdog who then goes to the top and then he falls again and then he figures it out and he gets help along the way and all of that. We all have that story within us. It's kind of like my book of accomplishments, right? That book of accomplishments are all the good things. But the reason I get that out is to remind myself when I'm in the low spot of what I have done before. That's a hero's journey. It's the same thing. And I, believe it or not, I pull pieces now from that book of accomplishments that I share in my story, because they're all part of who I am, how I got here, and that type thing. Okay. So again, you could just look at these. These are some steps. Task number 2, meet people. Same thing. Online, offline. You got to get out there and network. Task number 3, build a list. Build a list. Ideally, begin to build a list, an email list that you can market to over and over again. The action steps, I have some very simple steps listed there. If you're not sure how to do any of these, reach out to me. Okay, reach out to me. Task number 4 for health and wellness, learn how to promote more than just your product line. Okay, you have to learn to sell yourself as an expert, as a go-to person, as more than just buy my stuff. Okay, as more than that. Again, so these are just some examples. And then task number 5, create that evergreen marketing calendar. So again, going back to what we talked about, this is that calendar again. Okay, date number 24, January 24th. Maybe you're going to run a webinar. You're going to create the webinar. You're going to set the title and description. You're going to create marketing content. Maybe that's going to be recipes that you can share. Okay, if you're health and wellness, there's lots of tips and things that you can offer to people that aren't about your product, but fit in alignment. They complement your product. Nutrition tips, 5 blank, blank, blank tips. Write an email series around that. Write a blog post. Do a YouTube video. Again, think evergreen. Think how you can create that content that you can use today, tomorrow, next month, at the end of the year, and into following years. Sometimes special promotions, new products, all that kind of stuff pops up. Sometimes you're going to create content that is not evergreen, and that's okay. That's fine. You'd want to incorporate that in. But anytime you can create it so that you can use it over and over again, that's a score for you. And that's creating your body of work that will last and work for you over and over and over again. Okay, another example, coaching or online program. Okay, so if you're a coach, it's basically the same thing. Maybe your big goal is to sign 2 coaching clients per month. or a total of 12 clients by the year's end, whatever it is for you. If it's 2 a month, that would be 24. But but maybe that your end goal is 12. Whatever it is for you, whatever it is that you're selling, only you know what that is. But again, the steps are almost identical to building a network marketing business or building a real estate following or any of that. Those steps are basically going to be the same. These are the steps, the tasks that have to be done, and then the steps within them. And really, it kind of is the same everywhere. We have to meet people. We have to let them know what it is that we do so that they can go through their mental Rolodex and think, I might need that, or Susie Q needs that, or my sister-in-law might love that, or whatever it is. We have to meet people, let them know what we do, and then some way we offer them a chance to work with us, whether it's a one-to-one conversation, whether it's trying the product, whether it's joining us on a webinar, whatever it is, those are the next steps that we have to take. And then the real estate example, again, same thing. Maybe the big goal is to list 2 homes every month. I've never sold real estate. That might be a really big, lofty goal. Or maybe it's to sell 2 homes every month. Whatever it is, again, the action steps are almost identical to what has to be done. You have to get in front of people. You have to let them know what you do. And with real estate, just like health and wellness, honestly, you must figure out a way to differentiate yourself. Everybody sells real estate. Everybody sells health and wellness and network marketing. Now, I'm using the word everybody. I don't like that word, but you know what I mean. Everybody knows 12 real estate agents, whatever. All of us do. But when it all comes down to it, we get to choose one. We get to refer one, whatever it is. What is your hook going to be that sets you apart? Those are some things to work on. And in the red down here, I love to cook. So for me, kitchens. If I was a real estate agent, I would focus on kitchens. I would build my whole content calendar around kitchens. Now that's just me, because it would be super easy for me to play on that in a kitchen to share how you would do this or that or whatever. Now, does that mean that only people who like to cook would want to work with me in real estate? No. What I'm going to do through that is just brand myself and build my personality and allow people to get to know me. Of course, they're going to know that I'm able to help them with the contracts and determine good school districts and all the rest of it. But my focus would 100% be kitchens if I were in real estate. That's just me. Maybe yours is closets. Maybe you're a great organizer. So maybe you want to showcase for people the master closet or all the closet space or the storage space or whatever it is. Again, if you're in real estate, and I have a number of people sign up in real estate, what's that one hook that you can have that sets you apart? You can still be flexible. If you tour a house and it's got a fabulous outdoor living space, but you focus on kitchens, you can still focus on that. Okay. You're not limited to only that, but again, it gives you a theme. It gives you a protocol by which you're going to build stuff. So the key components that go into all of that are: know who your aligned client are, what's their demographics, what are their hopes, their fears, their desired outcomes, all of that. Create your personal manifesto of stories. How did you get involved? Why did you get involved? What did you go through? What happened for you? What's your hero's journey? Convert all of that to your marketing content. You convert all of that to your marketing manifesto, which becomes your content plan. And then it makes it simple for you to create that content all the time, online, offline, networking events, and your blog posts, which are your passive marketing, your active conversations when you meet people, those type things. And then you create those monthly themes that you can build on around that content. And you can pull all that together because, again, what's on the calendar gets done. Okay, I'll get to questions here in just a minute. Now, you may be going, I feel overwhelmed. I'm looking at that calendar. I'm looking at all the things. And so now I want to share with you how we can work together, how I can help you put all this together. A few years back, I pulled it all together into what I call the Killer Content, Copy, and Sales Formula Vault. It is a program to help you define who your aligned client is, who's the person that's most likely to attract to what it is that you do, what it is that you sell, and what the transformation is that you offer. It's really important that we start with that. And then from there, we start writing your personal manifesto. Okay. And you can go to streetsmartwealth.com/get-killer. There's a few videos there you can watch to learn a little bit more about it, or you can just go to killercontentformula.com. That'll take you through the series. But this is just a peek inside the vault. So it's set up with these modules, basic introduction and your worksheets. Module 1 is first and foremost to get your mindset right to allow you to more easily navigate this. It's kind of like those things that derail you. What are those things most likely to derail you? And the number one is the head trash and the mind drama that we take ourselves through. So that's the very first thing that we do is we work through all of that, because we all have it. The sooner we face it, the sooner that we're honest with it, the sooner that we can push it to the side. And then from there, we start writing that personal manifesto, and we work on, I want you to get your story done first. I actually do that before the aligned client, because from your own story, your own transformation, your own hero's journey, it makes it a lot easier, because most often our aligned client or ideal client or client avatar, whatever you want to call it, is us. It's really us, because we've gone through the journey, we've experienced all that, and we're the one that we're really talking to. So once you've written out your story, it makes it so much easier to do the rest of that. And then from there, we put all that into your marketing manifesto, and then we go through it and we enhance it. I teach you how to create those powerful headlines, how to use those power verbs. Because what I hear most often is, well, I'm not a writer. I don't know how to write. I don't know how to do this, different things along those lines. You don't have to be a born writer, but all of us have a story inside of us, and all of us have the ability to run that through my little verb program and those action verbs and those action words and those words that we know get emails open and get emails read and get the click and get blog posts looked at and video thumbnails and all the different things that you might be feeling overwhelmed with now. Okay. So this just kind of goes through, you can see on module 2, these are the modules that it, the actual pieces that it takes you through, how to write your SFD, which is snarky first draft. There's actually a different name for S, but, how to write your first draft, and then how to take that and fine tune it, how to write your origin story, how to paint your own vision and your mission. And then ultimately we take all of that and we put it into what's going to work for you. This is just an example of me writing my personal manifesto. I did this in a Google document, and you can see down the left, these are my titles. This is my blog bio, like about me and why I chose network marketing and why I took my business to the internet. It's quite a story. That was 1999, and I had no clue what was going to happen. In fact, for all I knew, on January 1st of 2000, the whole world was going to blow up and the internet was going to go away, because many of you will recall Y2K was a thing and we all worried about that. I have to put my cheaters on. Why I had a negative MLM blueprint, and then what my deeper purpose was that kept me going. I've got my Mean Janine story. If you've ever heard me talk about network marketing, that really was my neighbor. Anyway, and then I put all of this into content that I can pull pieces from for my content strategy. And then these are just examples of posts that I've shared on Instagram and Facebook. There's my intro. Okay, I can use a different picture, but I like to reintroduce myself to new followers at least once a month, or a couple times a year, ideally once a month. My defining moments. We took airline pay cuts. My shared experiences with people. I think there's my Mean Janine story. Just interesting things like that, where you can take your story, and ideally, again, with your ideal client, they're looking at that and they're nodding along, and there's my cat again, and they're thinking to themselves, wow, I know what that means. I know what it means to have a neighbor tell me, you're crazy. That network marketing thing is just a pyramid scheme. Or you got into real estate. Don't you know everybody sells real estate? Or whatever it is. But this is what allows you, and there's my St. Patrick's hat, which I like to have fun with holidays and themes and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to show you within that how you pull all that together. So again, then, we go through, we write out module 3 is really writing out your ideal client and the avatars. Module 4, that's where we take it through it. I've got killer headlines. I've got those power words that truly get the emails open, get the thumbnail, the video clicked on because of the thumbnail, all of those type things. You don't have to naturally be born knowing what to do with those. You just have to learn and have the little cheat sheets that will show you and tell you how to do those things. And then, finally, module 5, I teach you how to take all that and put that into an evergreen content formula, and then how to use that calendar to create all of that, and how to have your cat be on video with you and be the star. So there you go. All right. So again, all of this is pulled from that content that I wrote one time. I sat down and took the time to write out my story. My story doesn't change. I can share my story a million times because it's my story. There's nothing made up about it, nothing that I have to over or any of that. That's where sharing your story is so powerful, whatever it is that you're selling, because it's heartfelt. And, people hear it and they feel it, excuse me, and they know that it's legitimately you, and they're drawn to that. All right. So again, that's just a recap of all of that and what you get. You can go to streetsmartwealth.com/get-killer, and it will take you into that. And at this point, I am going to be doing some live calls. We're going to be doing some live calls with this program on the 3rd, the 10th, the 17th, and the 24th of January. And we'll be covering these specific topics. I'm going to be breaking those down. We'll do a lot of question and answer. I'm going to have live hot seat coaching available if you want to be coached live, because you have a specific challenge with that and you want me to walk you through it right there. You'll have the chance to get that. And then those calls are recorded if you can't make it live, and they're in the program. So with that, I am going to stop sharing my screen, because it seems like when I have my screen shared and I try to look at the questions, I always get derailed. So let me see if we have any more questions, comments, or any of that. Oh, Isabel, you saw the emotion on my face. Thank you. Yeah, I do tend to wear all that on my sleeve just a little tiny bit. Okay, if you have further questions about any of that, please type those into the box, the question box. I did get some ahead of time because I asked people to send questions. So I am going to go through those if you want to stick around. Some of them will relate to you, and some of them may not, but you'll learn something from them. So, and these were great questions. Question number 1 was, do I have to use themes? Absolutely not. Of course not. Themes really, for me, were just a way to keep me accountable, just like I shared. Just simply a way to keep me accountable with what I was the steps I was going to be doing and taking next. Now, this is a great question. How do I begin to transition from an old business to a new business? Well, this is really huge in writing your story. Okay, really big. And I believe there's a section in the Killer Content Formula on absolutely doing that. Let's face it, especially in the last, let's say, almost 4 years now, there's been a lot of pivots that have taken place. A lot of people have pivoted. And if you're, over age 50, let's say, or maybe even 40, the chances that you've pivoted in your life are really great. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. That doesn't mean you're wishy-washy. It doesn't mean any of that. It just means you've made some decisions for yourself that are a pivot. So if you've changed network marketing companies, which is what this is about, because I know the person who submitted this, how you address it and handle it is going to make all the difference in the world. If you're kind of mousy and wishy-washy and kind of like, well, I know, I did this before, but now I'm doing this, it's going to come across that way. And it's going to come across as you being wishy-washy. But if you've got passion in your voice and emotion on your face and all that kind of stuff, it's going to come across totally differently. And I think you get my point. Have conviction. Go through that personal manifesto. Write that stuff out. Write what your hopes and dreams and fears are. Write what went wrong with another company or what wasn't right for you. Write all that out. And then you can begin to fine tune that. That's going to make that flow effortlessly. And again, it's how you address it that makes all the difference in the world to your audience. If you believe it and you buy into it and you can express that, they will too. I promise you, they will too. Okay, next one, overcoming procrastination. You know what? You just do it. First, you try to get clear on what it is and why you're procrastinating. It's either indecision or fear or both that has you procrastinating. Do you truly believe? It goes back to that goal. What was that big stretch goal? And how committed are you to that goal? Now, procrastination comes in a lot of different forms. It comes in just laying there thinking, I don't want to do this. It comes in getting up and changing out the laundry, deciding in the middle of the day to take your walk because you haven't done that yet. And, oh, you better get that done before it gets dark or whatever it is. Can you tell these are all things that I've done myself? So, I get it. I've been the greatest procrastinator in the world. And I've also been the one that finally grabbed myself by the shoulders and said, get a grip. If you really want to make this happen, you've got to make this happen. And sometimes, which I'm going to get to because one of the questions was time blocking and prioritizing. In fact, we'll just go to that now. That falls under procrastination too. You've got to be the one. First of all, you will never find time. I don't know anybody that has an extra hour sitting around. My friend Lisa, who's on the call, knows that one of my least favorite things to hear is, I've been busy. I'm like, oh, yeah, wow, you're a unicorn because nobody else has been busy. Anyway, we're all busy. So find a different way to word that to yourself more than anything, not to anybody else, but to yourself. Because these days, that just sounds lame. I've been so busy. I know everybody's too busy for everything. We're all over processed, right? We're over marketed to with social media. We're over Netflixed. We're over scheduled. We're over everything. But we have to be the one that says, here's my goal. Here's my commitment to my goal. Here's the characteristics of the person I must become to achieve that goal. And here is the list of tasks and action steps that I must take to achieve this. How am I going to prioritize these based on the commitment level that I claimed that I had? That's where it's important that you be honest to yourself. We often lie the most to ourselves. That's very damaging because the body keeps score. It's a whole nother conversation, but it does. So you have to learn to be very radically honest with yourself, set realistic goals, and set those boundaries. Now, all of you with adult children, I'm talking to you and I'm talking to myself too. It's one thing to have to change our schedule when we have a 5-year-old, but when we have a 25-year-old or on up, we don't have to be at their beck and call anymore. I know, we think we have to. I have those age and above children too, but we don't. And so when you learn to set boundaries around your time, your priorities, they will, and you enforce them, they will learn to respect them too. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't help out with whatever it is that they need or want or whatever, but you say, that time doesn't work for me, but this time or this time does. Which of those times can you adapt your calendar to fit in with my time? I know it's hard. Believe me, I have that right now going on. But I know that every time I do set my boundaries and I'm nice about it, I'm never ugly. I don't think, maybe a little, but if I'm just really firm and say that, I'm sorry, that's not going to fit my schedule. I'm already booked during that time. And by the way, no is a complete sentence, but there's ways that we can say things that basically say, but I'm willing to work with you. These are some times I have available. Which of those will work for you? When you begin to honor yourself and your commitment and your boundaries, other people will do the same. And if you wonder what your true priority is, all you have to do is go back in your calendar or go back in your mind and see what you did last week, last month, whatever, and you will know what your number one priority is. And then you have to decide for yourself if that's the priority that you want or the way that you want to set it up. That doesn't mean that our children, our parents, our grandkids, or any of that, or our friendships, that doesn't mean that they're not a high priority. It's just that you are the one that gets to decide your boundaries and what you're going to do with your time and how you're going to feel about that. And an example, when I decided to take my business online, it was the year 2000. I decided in 99, but it was the year 2000 when I got 2000 and 2001 when I got super focused and busy working on it. And my kids went to a Montessori school. And every day, every morning, I would drop my kids off at school. And a whole group of moms who I was friends with would go to the bagel shop and they would sit around and talk about ER, which, by the way, I never saw that. I probably saw that show 3 or 4 times because TV was off my radar because it was not a priority. My business was. I really wanted to figure out the internet and being a success in my business. And so I almost never went to coffee and bagels. But I used to tell myself driving home in my pity party, kind of feeling sorry for myself, I used to tell myself, if I just commit to this for X amount of time and I do what needs to be done, I will never have to say no to coffee and bagels again. And guess what happened? That exact thing. I did it. I skipped it for the time being, but I did reach a point where I never had to say no to anything. I mean, occasionally, but you know what I mean? For the most part, it was like I was able to schedule because at that point, I had like 3.5 hours a day where my kids were at preschool and kindergarten, where I could actually work on my business with no distractions. And, some of you may still have small children, but if not, you know exactly what I'm talking about, where you've been in that role with it, where, that time is so precious. But then as time went on, I didn't have to have those mornings anymore that were just for that because I had created this body of work, this content that I still have today, my calendars, my content, my themes, all of the stuff that I'm encouraging you to put the time in today and over this next week and next 2 weeks and months and this next year to get done for you so that you will find at the end of this next year, you've achieved your goal and you've set yourself up for future years to have that goal over and over again, to achieve those goals, whatever goal it is you have set for yourself, and to know that so much of your content, so much of what you're going to be sharing out there is done and ready to go for you. And then the final question that I was asked was, how do I stick with a plan? And honestly, I think I've already covered that with summing it up with, what's your main goal? What's your number one goal? And if you're struggling with that, take the time to sit in the silence and really think about that. Visualize yourself at the end of next year. Visualize what you're going to feel like when you've accomplished whatever that goal is. Really take the time to visualize it. Write it out on a piece of paper. Be as descriptive as you can. If you don't want to write, open up Note on your phone, push the microphone and speak it into your phone. And then you can take that, you can convert it to a Word document. You can edit it out. You can run those power verbs and headlines. You can print that, and you can get up every single day and make that part of your morning routine where you read that to yourself and you remind yourself of who you are as your future self and how and why you've achieved and accomplished that goal. And that's how you stick to the plan. You stick to the priority. You make a commitment to yourself. You honor your commitments to yourself. So, all right, we are right literally at almost 5:30, which is 90 minutes, which is exactly what I had this scheduled for. And I don't see any other questions or comments coming in. If you have any, now is the time. Put those in there. I don't see any more. So I will go ahead and thank you again for your time and attention, whether you were on live, whether you were listening to this recorded. If you have any questions or comments, either leave them below or send them to me, and I will get the slides and get all the stuff out to you. And I hope to be coaching some of you, if not all of you, within the Killer Content Formula and cheerleading you on as you make 2024 your most amazing year and your future self as you're stepping into it the best ever. All right, go have a great evening. Have a wonderful holiday season, and I'll see you on one of my next upcoming webinars very soon.